to put some type of cover on that field to protect it from the same thing, from erosion and sediment, nutrient loss. Here lately, especially after the drought last year, we really promoted the cover crops for what we call nutrient, what do we call them? There's a crazy word there. What we want to do is the nutrients we didn't use, there was a huge amount of nitrogen applied to cornfields last year that didn't get used due to the lack of rainfall, and thus the low yield of harvest. So we put certain species of cover crops. Oats is a big cover crop we use. Wheat has been a mainstay in Clark County for years. All tobacco farmers used to use wheat on their tobacco fields for cover crops. Wheat causes more problems than it solves because it's a host for so many diseases and pests. We use a lot of tillage radish. A tillage radish will do just that. Tillage radish may get 4 feet long and 6-8 inches in diameter, and it grows down and basically just heaves the soil and collects, the word I was looking for a while ago, is scavenge. It scavenges the nutrients that was left. And then when that cover crop species does its thing, goes through its cycle, a lot of them are winter killed. So they will, when they, in their dying process, it puts the nutrients back into the soil at a time when we're putting the crop back on to utilize those nutrients. And like I say, the nitrogen was a biggie that we got. We had a lot of places in Indiana that 80% of the nitrogen that was applied to the corn was still there after harvest because the rainfall wasn't there to make it take up the nitrates and use them. Indiana leads the nation in cover crop on ag land, and that's based on probably utilizing every program we got, state, federal, and local. We made a big push for that, and we led the nation in cover crops. I think we had close to 800 acres of cover crop in Clark County last year, and a lot of that is due to the means of application can be a problem. A lot of these things need to be put on early, which means they need to be aerial applied with an airplane. We used to use a helicopter to do this, but helicopters cause other problems when they hover and drop seed. Turbidity or problem with that, it just takes the seed everywhere but where you want it. The airplanes work a lot better. The problem with the airplane, we get a lot of cover crops going in people's gutters or gardens next to the crop field because it's a little harder to control with the airplane. But those operators are getting better. We use, actually EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, has a program with a grant that is administered locally through the local soil and water conservation districts and through the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. This program is watershed based, and by that I mean, right now, we've got a 319 grant for the Silver Creek watershed, which includes a small portion of Scott County, a huge portion of the center of Clark County, and then a small part of Floyd County, and then it empties into the Ohio River. I work with a watershed that is based mainly in Jefferson County, but it includes part of Ripley, Scott, and Jennings County, the Central Muscatatuck Watershed Project. That project ends mid-August. We have put probably close to $300,000 worth of cost share on the ground with that grant. But the good side of that, even though that sounds like a lot of money that the taxpayers spent, that's a 60-40 for every $6 that EPA and IDM puts into this program. The local entity has to come back with the other 40%, and that's with the time that they spent, my time. We call that in-kind. A lot of grants have to have an in-kind match, and that holds true the same with these IDM grants. Clark County currently has a grant proposal that has all but been stamped with the seal of approval from the Indiana Department of Environmental Management for Upper 14 Mile Creek and Goose Creek. I've lived in this county all my life, and I never heard of Goose Creek. Apparently, Goose Creek is on the Kentucky side of the river, but the watershed includes part of Indiana. So we had to include Goose Creek into this grant application. And like I say, it's all but been funded. We're looking for probably close to $350,000 to for land application of best management practices in that watershed, ranging anywhere from like the grass waterways, structural type practices to the agronomic practices, with the push for the agronomic practice, because that's the biggest bang for the buck, really. Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. They made that an acronym because CREP is a whole lot easier to come up with, but we had some people that misspell that, and we have problems sometimes. But this is nothing but a piggyback program for the Conservation Reserve Program. We will put state funds on top of the federal funds to entice more acres into this program because it's a long-term thing. The emphasis with this is mostly bottom land along creeks and rivers to get it back into trees like it was back in great-grandfather's day. Well, sorry, probably your grandfather's day. Yeah. John's oldest son, yeah, right. Anyway, what I do with these programs is, upon request from the landowner or any entity involved, they'll ask me, I will go meet with the landowner, and we will decide what the resource concerns are on the ground, whether it's erosion, sediment loss, nutrient loss. One of our big pushes is soil health, and that's basically consists of keeping the soil where it is and making it healthier to grow sustainable crops with the least amount of inputs possible. We push for a lot of nutrient management in these watershed projects, which is no more than I can go to a spreadsheet and I can put in the crop that I raised, the yield that I took off of that crop, and that spreadsheet will tell me what phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium I need to apply to that ground to raise the crop I want to raise next year. We used to run out there, and I'm guilty of it in the past, we would just run out there with a shotgun